Imagine this. You've been learning English for months, maybe even years, and yet you feel like you're stuck. You understand some words, you can form sentences, but when it's time to speak fluently, your mind freezes. You know what you want to say, but the words just don't come out. You feel embarrassed, frustrated, and sometimes you even ask yourself, is this really for me? Will I ever become fluent? Let me tell you something important. Being stuck doesn't mean you're not capable. It doesn't mean you lack intelligence. It simply means you're standing at a door that requires a little more courage to push open. And the truth is, fluency is not about perfection. It's about confidence. You don't need to know every single word in English to speak fluently. You don't need to sound like a native speaker to be understood. What you need is the courage to express yourself with the words you already know. Think about it. A child learns to speak by making mistakes, by trying again and again, without worrying about grammar or accent. Yet, as adults, we fear mistakes so much that we stay silent. But silence will never make you fluent. Every mistake you make in English is not proof of failure. It's proof that you're learning, proof that you're trying, proof that you're moving forward. Fluency is built in small, consistent steps. Speak a little every day. Talk to yourself, think in English, describe what you see, what you feel, what you want. Don't wait for the perfect opportunity. Create opportunities. Stop translating everything from your language. Start living in English, even if it's just for a few minutes daily. And most importantly, believe in yourself. Remember, every fluent speaker you admire was once exactly where you are. Stuck, uncertain, struggling to find words. But they didn't give up. They pushed through the fear. They kept speaking. They kept practicing, and eventually, fluency became their reality. So, if you feel stuck right now, don't take it as the end of your journey. Take it as a sign that you are closer than you think. Keep moving, keep speaking, and one day, without even realizing it, you'll find yourself speaking English with the fluency and confidence you've always dreamed of. There comes a time in every English learner's journey when the excitement starts to fade, when the progress feels invisible, and when the same mistakes repeat themselves no matter how much effort you put in. You study new vocabulary, you practice grammar rules, you listen to English podcasts or watch movies, but when it's time to actually speak, the words don't flow the way you want them to. This is the stage most people describe as being stuck. It feels like you've hit a wall, a barrier between where you are and where you want to be. And the moment you reach that stage, doubt creeps in. You start questioning yourself. Am I not smart enough? Am I not good at languages? Maybe I just don't have what it takes. But let me remind you of something powerful. Being stuck does not mean you are not capable. It doesn't mean you've reached your limit. It simply means you're standing at the edge of your comfort zone right before your breakthrough. That feeling of being stuck is not a dead end. It's a sign that you're ready for the next level. Think about it. If you never felt stuck, you would never grow. If everything came easy, you wouldn't need persistence. And without persistence, you wouldn't develop strength. The very fact that you feel stuck right now is proof that you've already made progress. It shows that you've outgrown your old level, and now your mind and skills are preparing to step into something bigger. Many learners confuse this stuck phase with failure, but in reality, it is a natural part of mastering any skill. Whether it's learning an instrument, training in sports, or improving a language, progress is never a straight line. It's not always fast or visible. It comes in stages. Sometimes you'll move quickly, and other times you'll move slowly. But even when you can't see the results, something is happening beneath the surface. Your brain is processing, connecting, storing, and strengthening. You may feel like nothing is changing, but deep inside, your efforts are laying the foundation for a huge leap forward. Take a moment and think about the skills you already have in life. Maybe you can ride a bike, drive a car, cook a meal, or use technology. When you first started learning those skills, you didn't master them overnight. You probably felt clumsy at first. You probably made mistakes, maybe even repeated them hundreds of times. There were moments when you thought you weren't improving at all. And yet, with time and consistency, something clicked. Suddenly, riding the bike felt natural. Driving became automatic. Cooking became effortless. That exact moment will happen in your English journey too, but only if you don't mistake being stuck as being incapable. The truth is, the feeling of being stuck is more emotional than logical. It's born from comparison. You look at others who speak fluently and you feel behind. You measure your progress against unrealistic standards and you feel small. But you need to remember that fluency is not a race. It doesn't matter if someone learns faster or slower than you. It doesn't matter if someone sounds more confident than you right now. What matters is that you are moving forward step by step on your own path. And on this path, feeling stuck is not a stop sign, it's just a checkpoint. Another reason people feel incapable when stuck is because they forget how far they've already come. Go back to the very first day you started learning English. Back then, maybe you didn't understand basic greetings, maybe you couldn't read simple sentences, maybe you had no idea what grammar was. And yet today, here you are, understanding, reading, practicing, and even daring to dream about fluency. That is not weakness. That is not incapability. That is growth. You are already living proof that you can learn, adapt, and improve. You are already doing what once felt impossible to you. If you've made it this far, why doubt your ability to go further? Being stuck is actually a hidden blessing. It's your brain telling you that you've reached the limit of old methods and now need to approach learning differently. It's not about your capacity, it's about your strategy. If you've been memorizing words silently, maybe now it's time to speak them aloud. If you've been studying grammar rules, maybe now it's time to focus on listening and imitation. If you've been practicing alone, maybe now it's time to engage in real conversations. The wall you're facing is not a sign of weakness, it's a guidepost telling you to change direction. You must also understand that fluency doesn't arrive in one big moment. It builds quietly through small actions. The very struggles you face today are shaping you into someone who will one day speak confidently without hesitation. You may not see it yet, but every attempt, every mistake, and every effort is a building block. Just because you're not fluent today doesn't mean you'll never be fluent. It simply means you're in the middle of the journey, and the middle always feels harder than the start. But the middle is also where transformation happens. So, the next time you feel stuck, instead of saying, "I'm not capable," tell yourself, "This is just part of the process. This is proof that I'm still moving." Don't let frustration turn into self-doubt. Don't let a temporary pause trick you into believing you're not good enough. You are capable. You've already shown courage by starting. You've already proven strength by continuing. And as long as you keep going, fluency is not a matter of if, it's only a matter of when. When most people think about speaking English fluently, they immediately imagine speaking without a single mistake, using advanced vocabulary, perfect grammar, and sounding exactly like a native speaker. This is where so many learners go wrong. They chase perfection instead of fluency, and in that chase, they lose the very confidence they need to actually communicate. The truth is, fluency is not about perfection. Fluency is about confidence, the courage to express yourself with the words you already know, even if they're not perfect, even if they're not fancy. Think about this. How many times have you stopped yourself from speaking because you were worried about grammar? How many times have you stayed silent in a conversation because you couldn't remember the perfect word? How many times have you wished you could say something but held back because you were afraid of being judged? That hesitation is the real barrier to fluency, not your vocabulary, not your accent, not even your grammar. You don't need perfection to connect with people. You need the bravery to open your mouth and speak. Children are the perfect example of this. When they learn their first language, they don't think about grammar rules. They don't worry about mispronouncing words, and they don't wait until their vocabulary is perfect. They just speak. They point at things, they make mistakes, they invent words when they don't know the right ones, but they keep talking. And because they keep talking, their fluency develops naturally. Yet as adults, we overthink so much that we block our own growth. We get so obsessed with speaking correctly that we end up not speaking at all. But here's the reality. The more you speak, even with mistakes, the faster you will improve. Perfection is an illusion. Even native speakers make mistakes. They forget words, they mispronounce things, they start a sentence one way and then change it halfway through. But nobody calls them bad speakers because communication is not about being flawless, it's about being understood. If you can express your ideas, if people can understand your feelings, if you can connect and share through English, then you are already fluent. The rest, the polishing, the refining, comes with time, but it should never stop you from using what you already know. Confidence is the fuel of fluency. It's what gives your words power, even if they are simple. Imagine two learners. One knows advanced vocabulary, but hesitates, stutters, and doubts every sentence. The other knows basic words, but speaks with confidence, energy, and belief in themselves. Who will seem more fluent? The second one, always. Because people don't just listen to your words, they feel your energy. If you speak with fear, they sense your fear. If you speak with confidence, they focus on your message, not your mistakes. It's easy to hide behind books, apps, and endless lessons, convincing yourself that you'll start speaking when you're ready. But here's the secret: you'll never feel completely ready. The only way to become fluent is to practice confidence in the present moment, not in some perfect future. Every time you speak, you are training your brain to become comfortable with English. Every time you open your mouth, even if the sentence is broken, you are building fluency. The more you speak, the stronger your confidence becomes, and the stronger your confidence, the closer you get to fluency. Confidence doesn't mean pretending to know everything. It doesn't mean ignoring your mistakes. It means accepting that mistakes are part of learning and refusing to let them silence you. Instead of saying, "What if I say it wrong?" Start asking, "What if I never say it at all?" Which one do you think will help you grow? Your mistakes will correct themselves over time as long as you keep speaking, but silence will never correct anything. Another powerful thing to remember is that fluency is about connection, not perfection. When you speak English, your goal is not to impress people with big words. It's to connect, to be understood, to share your ideas. You don't need advanced grammar to tell your story. You don't need complicated words to express your feelings. Sometimes the simplest words carry the deepest meaning. A confident "I believe in myself" is far more powerful than a perfectly structured but nervous sentence filled with hesitation. So many learners wait for the day when they can speak without mistakes before they allow themselves to feel fluent. But that day never comes, because mistakes will always exist. Instead, fluency belongs to the person who decides to speak now, mistakes and all. Fluency belongs to the person who says, "I may not be perfect, but I can express myself, and that's enough." That decision, that mindset, is what transforms your English from silence into real communication. Confidence in English is like a muscle. At first it feels weak, shaky, and unreliable, but the more you use it, the stronger it gets. Every conversation you join, every sentence you speak, every mistake you make in front of others, it's all part of building that muscle. One day, what feels heavy and difficult now will feel natural and light, but only if you keep practicing, only if you keep speaking with the confidence that fluency is not perfection, it's progress in motion. One of the biggest fears English learners carry with them is the fear of making mistakes. It's the reason so many people stay silent in conversations, the reason they don't practice speaking in public, and the reason they sometimes give up altogether. They think that every mistake is a sign of weakness, every error is a reflection of failure, and every wrong sentence means they are not good enough. But the reality is completely different. Mistakes are not proof that you are failing. They are proof that you are learning. They are signs of movement, signs of progress, signs that you are alive in the process of growth. Think about this. When you were a child learning to walk, did you get it right the first time? Of course not. You stumbled, you fell, you bumped into things. Yet no one ever looked at a child falling and said, "Oh, this child is a failure. They will never walk." Instead, people clapped, encouraged, smiled, and said, "Keep trying, you'll get it." And what happened? With every fall, with every mistake, you became stronger. You learned balance. You learned coordination. Eventually, you walked confidently. That same principle applies to English. Every mistake is a step forward. Every error is your brain practicing balance. And every awkward sentence is part of your journey toward fluency. The problem is not the mistake itself. The problem is how we see it. Most learners view mistakes as something to be ashamed of, when in fact, they should be celebrated. If you make a mistake, it means you are speaking. If you are speaking, it means you are practicing. And if you are practicing, it means you are improving. Silence does not create fluency. Perfectionism does not create fluency. Only trying, failing, correcting, and trying again creates fluency. Mistakes are the proof that you're in motion, not stuck in theory. Even the most successful people in the world are full of mistakes. Athletes train by failing over and over again before mastering their skills. Musicians hit the wrong notes countless times before they create something beautiful. Scientists experiment with failure thousands of times before they find the right solution. And yet, no one questions their ability just because they fail in the process. Why? Because failure is simply part of learning. It's the same with English. Your mistakes are not permanent labels. They are temporary steps. The more you make them, the faster you correct them, and the closer you get to fluency. Imagine if you refused to make mistakes as a child. You would never have learned to walk, to ride a bike, or to write your first words. But you didn't stop then, so why stop now? Somewhere along the way, as adults, we become too self-conscious. We worry about what others will think. We fear being laughed at. We are embarrassed by our errors. But let me tell you something. No one who truly values communication cares about your mistakes. People care about connection. They care about your effort. They care about your willingness to try. In fact, most people admire someone who speaks with courage despite their mistakes more than someone who stays silent out of fear. There's also a hidden strength inside every mistake. It teaches you something you would not learn otherwise. If you say a word incorrectly and someone corrects you, that correction sticks in your mind far more strongly than if you had just memorized it silently. If you use the wrong grammar in a sentence, the discomfort of that moment helps you remember the right way next time. Mistakes sharpen your awareness, highlight your weak spots, and guide you toward improvement. Without mistakes, you wouldn't know what to fix. Without mistakes, you wouldn't know where to grow. And let's be honest, sometimes the pressure to avoid mistakes is heavier than the mistake itself. You hesitate, you pause, you overthink, and in the end, you don't speak at all. But what happens then? Nothing. No growth, no practice, no progress. On the other hand, when you allow yourself to make mistakes freely, you release that pressure. You speak more, you experiment more, and because you practice more, you improve faster. The people who learn English the fastest are not those who know the most rules, but those who are brave enough to break them while speaking and then learn along the way. Mistakes also remind you that learning is a journey, not a destination. You will make mistakes today, tomorrow, and even years from now, but instead of seeing them as obstacles, you can choose to see them as companions on your path. Each one is like a signpost saying, "You are still moving forward." If you never make mistakes, it means you're not pushing yourself, you're not stretching your limits, and you're not really learning. So the next time you speak English and make a mistake, don't punish yourself, don't shrink back in shame, don't replay the error in your head for hours. Instead, smile and say to yourself, "This is proof, proof that I'm trying, proof that I'm learning, proof that I'm getting closer." Because every fluent speaker you admire, every person you look up to, has a history full of mistakes behind their fluency. Their confidence today was built on the same stumbles, errors, and awkward sentences you are making now. Your mistakes are not the end of your journey. They are the very bricks that will build your success. When people dream of speaking English fluently, they often imagine some big dramatic change. A moment where suddenly everything clicks, where they wake up one day and all the words flow effortlessly. But fluency doesn't appear in a single moment like magic. It doesn't arrive after one powerful study session or after memorizing a long vocabulary list. True fluency is not built in a day. It is built day by day. It is not about how much you do once in a while. It is about what you do regularly, consistently, without giving up. Consistency is the real secret to fluency. Think about any skill in life. If you want to become strong physically, you don't go to the gym once for 10 hours and expect to transform your body. You go for 30 minutes, an hour, but you do it again and again, week after week, month after month. That's how your muscles grow, not through one intense effort, but through repeated, consistent action. Learning English works in the exact same way. Studying one day for 5 hours and then doing nothing for weeks will never create fluency, but spending just 15 to 20 minutes every single day, practicing speaking, listening, or reading in English will create results you can see and feel. Consistency builds habits, and habits shape who you become. The more often you expose yourself to English, the more natural it becomes. At first, it may feel like a task, something you have to push yourself to do. But with repetition, it starts to become a part of your routine, a part of your lifestyle. Soon, you're not forcing yourself to practice. It becomes automatic. Just like brushing your teeth or checking your phone, speaking and thinking in English becomes something your mind naturally does. And that transformation happens only when you show up consistently, even on days you don't feel like it. One of the most common mistakes learners make is believing that only big efforts count. They think they need to finish an entire grammar book, watch hours of English movies, or memorize hundreds of words in one sitting. But the truth is, the small, daily actions matter more. Reading one page a day, listening to 5 minutes of English audio, practicing a short conversation with yourself in the mirror. These tiny steps may seem too small to matter, but over weeks and months, they add up. They create momentum. They build fluency silently in the background until one day you suddenly realize you are speaking more easily than before. Consistency also trains your brain to stay connected with the language. If you practice only once in a while, your brain forgets, and every time you return to English, it feels like starting over again. That's why so many learners feel stuck. They're inconsistent, but when you touch the language every single day, even for a short period, your brain stays in English mode. Words stay fresh, grammar feels more natural, and speaking becomes less of a struggle. It's like keeping a fire alive. If you feed it a little wood every day, it keeps burning. But if you leave it alone for too long, it dies out, and you have to start all over again. Another important truth is that consistency is more powerful than motivation. Motivation is a feeling. It comes and goes. Some days you'll feel excited to learn, and some days you won't. If you depend on motivation, you'll only study when you feel like it, and that won't be enough. But consistency is a decision. It's a commitment you keep whether you feel motivated or not. On the days when you're tired, busy, or frustrated, showing up even for 5 minutes is more valuable than doing nothing. Those small efforts on difficult days are what separate those who achieve fluency from those who quit. Think about a seed. You don't plant it and expect a tree overnight. You water it daily, you care for it, you give it sunlight. At first you see nothing. Days pass, weeks pass, and it looks like nothing is happening. But underground, growth is taking place. Roots are spreading, strength is being built, and eventually a tiny sprout appears. With more consistency, it grows taller, stronger, until one day it becomes a tree. Your English journey is exactly like that seed. Some days it will feel like nothing is changing, but if you keep watering it with consistent practice, the results will show. Consistency also removes the fear of making mistakes because it gives you more chances to practice. If you speak English once a month, every mistake feels heavy, every error feels embarrassing. But if you speak English every day, mistakes become normal, just part of the process. You don't give them power because you know tomorrow you'll get another chance to try again. Consistency makes practice less stressful and more natural, which is exactly what fluency requires. Even 10 minutes a day is powerful if it's consistent. Imagine speaking out loud to yourself in English every morning as you get ready. Imagine listening to a short English podcast every day on your way to work. Imagine reading one page of an English book every night before bed. None of these things require hours of effort, but together, over time, they transform you. Because fluency is not the result of one grand effort, it's the reward of small steps repeated consistently. One of the biggest reasons many learners feel stuck in their English journey is because they are constantly translating from their native language into English. Every time they want to speak, their brain first builds the sentence in their own language, then tries to find the English equivalent. This slows everything down. It creates hesitation, confusion, and frustration. By the time they finally find the words, the moment has already passed. This is why conversations feel difficult and unnatural. The truth is, fluency will never come through translation. Fluency comes when you begin to think directly in English. At first, this idea might sound impossible. You've spent your entire life thinking in your own language. It's natural, automatic, and effortless. So the thought of suddenly switching your thinking to another language feels overwhelming. But it's not about switching completely overnight. It's about training your brain step by step to process English naturally without needing a middle language. Just like exercising a muscle, the more you practice thinking in English, the stronger and faster it becomes. When you think in English, you remove the delay. Words come quicker, sentences flow more naturally, and your confidence grows. You no longer have to pause and search in your mind for translations. You simply express yourself. It's like riding a bike. At first, you're slow and shaky, trying to balance yourself with every step. But the more you ride, the more automatic it becomes, until one day, you're not thinking about balance at all, you're just riding. Thinking in English works the same way. What feels forced in the beginning becomes effortless over time. A simple way to start is by naming the things around you in English. Look at your room, your desk, the street, the food on your plate, and say the words in English. Instead of thinking, "this is a cup," in your language, and then translating, go straight to the English word, cup. The more you do this, the more your brain starts to build direct connections to English. Another way is to describe your actions in English. As you cook, think, "I'm cutting the vegetables." As you walk, think, "I'm going to the store." These small, simple thoughts start to rewire your brain. making English a natural part of your daily thinking. Another powerful method is self-talk. You don't always need a partner to practice speaking. You can speak with yourself, talk about your plans for the day, your feelings, your goals, all in English. For example, when you wake up, tell yourself, "Today I need to finish my work, then I'll meet my friend, and later I'll watch a movie." At first, it might feel awkward or forced, but it is one of the most effective ways to train your brain to think in English. The more you do it, the more natural it becomes, and soon, English will start to appear in your thoughts without effort. Thinking in English also helps reduce mistakes. When you rely on translation, you often bring the grammar and structure of your native language into English, which creates errors. But when you build your thoughts directly in English, you're more likely to use correct English patterns. For example, if your language uses a different order for words, translating may confuse you. But thinking directly in English helps you adopt the natural rhythm and structure of the language. Another important benefit of thinking in English is that it helps you develop a feel for the language. Instead of memorizing rules, you start to sense what sounds right. For example, when you listen to enough English and think in it, you'll just know that "I go to home" feels wrong and "I go home" feels right, even if you can't explain the grammar. This instinct comes only from direct contact with English, not from translating. It's the same way native speakers of any language communicate. They don't analyze rules while speaking, they simply follow what feels natural. Of course, this process takes time and it requires patience. In the beginning, your brain will resist. It will want to go back to the comfort of your native language. You'll catch yourself translating again and again, but every time you notice it, gently bring yourself back to English. Don't get frustrated. It's like training a puppy. At first it runs everywhere, but with consistent guidance, it learns to follow you. Your brain works the same way. With consistency, it learns to think in English more and more often. Immersing yourself in English is another way to speed up the process. Surround yourself with English as much as possible. Watch movies, listen to music, read books, follow English social media, even change your phone's language settings. The more English you consume, the more your brain gets used to it. And when your brain is surrounded by English, it becomes easier and more natural to think in it. Slowly, you'll notice that certain words, expressions, or even thoughts come to you directly in English without translation. That's the beginning of true fluency. Remember, the goal is not to completely erase your native language. Your first language is part of who you are and always will be. The goal is simply to give your brain another pathway, a direct route to English. When you can think in English, even in small pieces, you break the cycle of hesitation. You give yourself freedom. You stop being trapped by translation, and you start experiencing the language as it is meant to be experienced. That is the key that unlocks fluency. Believing in yourself may sound like a simple piece of advice, something you've heard countless times, but when it comes to learning English or any new skill, it is the most powerful foundation you can build. Without self-belief, every challenge feels heavier, every mistake feels permanent, and every setback feels like proof that you should give up. But when you truly believe in yourself, the same challenges become opportunities. Mistakes become lessons, and setbacks become stepping stones. Belief is what keeps you moving when everything else tells you to stop. Many learners underestimate the power of their mindset. They focus on vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation, but they forget that the real battle is inside their own mind. You can have the best resources, the best teacher, and the best methods, but if you don't believe that you are capable of becoming fluent, you will always hold yourself back. Your mind will find excuses. It will create fear. It will tell you, "I can't do this," and eventually, those words will become your reality. On the other hand, if you carry the belief that no matter how slow it feels, no matter how many mistakes you make, you are capable of improving, then nothing can stop you. That belief will carry you through the difficult days when progress feels invisible. Believing in yourself doesn't mean pretending the journey is easy. It doesn't mean ignoring your struggles or lying to yourself about your level. It means recognizing your challenges, but refusing to let them define your future. It means saying, "Yes, I find speaking hard right now, but I am learning. Yes, I make mistakes, but those mistakes are part of my growth. Yes, I feel stuck today, but I know that if I keep going, tomorrow will be better." That mindset turns obstacles into fuel instead of barriers. There will always be moments when you feel like giving up. Maybe you try to speak and someone doesn't understand you. Maybe you study for weeks and don't notice much improvement. Maybe you compare yourself to someone else who speaks fluently and feel far behind. These moments can be discouraging, and it's easy to let them convince you that you are not good enough. But belief is the voice that whispers inside you. Keep going. This is not the end. You are closer than you think. That voice is what separates those who stop from those who succeed. Remember, every fluent speaker you admire once stood exactly where you are now. They also struggled. They also felt stuck. They also doubted themselves. The only difference is that they chose to keep pushing forward. They believed that even if today was hard, tomorrow could be better. They believed that even if they weren't perfect now, with practice, they would improve. That belief kept them practicing, kept them speaking, kept them learning, and eventually it carried them to fluency. Pushing forward doesn't mean you have to take giant leaps every day. Sometimes it just means taking one small step, even when it feels difficult. Maybe it's practicing one sentence aloud. Maybe it's reading one page of an English book. Maybe it's listening to a short podcast. These actions may seem small, but they are proof of your belief. Each time you choose to do something instead of nothing, you are showing yourself that you are not giving up, that you believe your effort matters. Over time, these small actions compound into big results. It's also important to protect your belief from negativity. There will be people who laugh at your mistakes, people who tell you it's too late, people who doubt your abilities. If you allow their voices to sink into your heart, they will weaken your belief. But remember, their doubts are not your truth. Their opinions do not define your potential. The only voice that truly matters in your journey is the one inside your own mind. Feed that voice with encouragement. Replace self-criticism with self-compassion. Instead of saying, I can't, remind yourself, I'm still learning and I will improve. Another way to strengthen your belief is to celebrate small wins. Too often, learners wait for fluency before they allow themselves to feel proud. But pride should not only come at the end, it should accompany you throughout the journey. Did you have your first conversation without translating? Celebrate it. Did you understand a line from a movie without subtitles? Celebrate it. Did you speak even though you were nervous? Celebrate it. These small victories are proof of progress, and recognizing them keeps your belief alive. Believing in yourself also means being patient with yourself. Fluency is not an overnight transformation. It's a long journey filled with ups and downs. There will be days when words flow easily and days when they don't. There will be moments when you feel confident and moments when you don't. But patience allows you to accept the process as it is, without losing faith. When you believe in yourself, you trust that every effort is moving you forward, even if the results are not visible right away. And finally, belief is not just a feeling, it's a choice. You may not always feel confident, you may not always feel motivated, but you can still choose to believe that your effort matters. You can still choose to believe that fluency is possible for you. That choice is what keeps you standing back up after every fall, what keeps you speaking after every mistake, what keeps you learning when it would be easier to quit. It's the quiet strength that says, no matter what, I will not stop. So if you've ever felt stuck, if you've ever wondered why fluency feels so far away, remember this. Being stuck does not mean you are failing. It simply means you are still on the journey. Fluency is not about speaking perfect English. It's about having the confidence to use the words you already know. Every mistake you make is proof that you are learning, and every small step you take adds up to something greater than you can see right now. When you think in English instead of translating, you begin to live the language, and when you believe in yourself, no obstacle can hold you back. Your journey may be slow, but slow progress is still progress. Every single day, you choose to keep going. You are becoming the kind of speaker you once dreamed of being. Don't measure yourself against others. Measure yourself against who you were yesterday. Because the truth is, fluency is not only about mastering English, it is about mastering the belief that you are capable of achieving anything if you refuse to give up. So keep speaking, keep learning, keep believing. One day soon, you'll look back and realize that the person who once struggled to say a sentence is now speaking with confidence, and all because you never stopped moving forward. Your English fluency is not a question of if, it is only a question of when.